Guys, Manchester City 4, Liverpool 1, and this is kind of like a fan cam reverse. I'm sure you all remember Alex from the Blooming Rising days. I was like, Alex, mate, you've got to come on. We've got to chat about football. Alex, you pouring a drink there?
I poured a beer. Yeah, why not, man?
Wonderful.
We're strong, why not?
Oh, what have you got, man? What have you got, by the way?
No product placement, but I'm drinking London Porter by Orbit Beers.
Beer review. Is it as good as City's performance today, the beer?
Yeah, absolutely outstanding. Lovely, smooth, decadent, luxury. That's what you want. Exactly. I thought it was appropriate for the moment.
You're definitely a bit half cut already, I can tell, man.
Well, do you know what? Today was a really nice one because City we're a million miles ahead of Liverpool. We're top of the league. Whatever happened, worst case scenario, we got battered today. We were still going to be 2 points clear at the top of the league with a game in hand. So you could chill out and enjoy it. The pressure was off. First half, I thought, it was much for muchness, a little bit dull. We won't talk about the Gundogan penalty. Liverpool maybe were even the better team. But second half, City came alive. And you could enjoy it. You could chill out. You didn't have to stress too much because ultimately this season's we've been in such good form that this game, which is a massive fixture in and on itself, you can kind of chill out and enjoy it a bit more.
How much does this game mean to Man City now? Obviously, we know it means for the title race, but how much does this mean to City and to City fans right now, given everything that we've been through at Anfield? It's been horrible, man. How much does this mean right now?
Yeah, I didn't realise until today that it was 2003 since City last won at Anfield. I can believe it's that long, but in actual muchness, because we've been so good in the last few years, I would have thought we might have nicked one off them at some point. But I've got so many memories of going to Anfield and watching crap performances or having our hearts broken and, missed penalties and missed opportunities. It does feel good to put that myth to bed. And do you know what? We were excellent today. We benefited from Liverpool making some quite bad mistakes. And it feels like the power has shifted. And City have got that ruthlessness back. And there's punishers in our team that won't let you make a mistake. Because if you make an error in front of Ilkay Gundogan, he will make you pay for it. He's coming to claim your debt, man. So that's what we missed last season. Teams would play poorly against Manchester City and the game would finish in a draw. We weren't punishing those mistakes. And it's like watching the Centurions again. We look deadly, we look mean, and do you know what the best bit is? We look like the bad guys.
I think some people have always said it's the bad guys anyway, but I know exactly what you mean. Like, we genuinely like, oh, fuck them. You know what I mean? A little bit like, oh, I can't stand them. It's in a way that when you play against us, you're not going to get really much of a chance. You're going to get the odd sniff. And even then, that sniff that they got, which was a soft penalty, even then it didn't matter. What was the difference anyway in the first half and second half for you? Like, what was the difference maker, or who was the difference maker, I guess?
We looked a bit hungrier second half. I think first half we were cautious and very understandably so, because in big games, for all of his criticism and everything we can say negative about Jurgen Klopp, in big games he really can pull it out the bag. And I think City were just trying to figure out what Liverpool were doing and work themselves out. And you know what? I think City had more of the ball. I watched the game through a dodgy Portuguese stream, so I don't have all the stats in front of me. But it certainly felt like City had more of the ball, but Liverpool had the better chances. They made more of it. They looked more threatening. And it was slow, but I thought second half City came out and realised that Liverpool, while they looked dangerous, their bark was worse than their bite. And I think City were more confident. And I thought when Shaqiri came on around 60 minutes, you thought, actually, hang on a minute, Liverpool are really going for this and they're going to expose themselves more. And you could tell City brought Jesus on a few minutes later. And actually, that worked out for us. The more Liverpool opened up, the more bold City became.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we have to talk about Phil Foden. I mean, the wonder kid, Phil Foden. I mean, how far can Phil Foden go in football? And was this his best game in a Manchester City shirt yet, in terms of professional performances?
I think we can get carried away. I think it's one of his biggest performances. Absolutely. I think, scoring a massive goal in a massive game is huge for the player. And seeing already on Twitter, like, Carlos Puyol is talking about how good he is. And that's a player that played with Messi and
Messi,
Piqué and Busquets and Iniesta and all these amazing players. And he's coming out from his throne to talk about how good Phil Foden is. Liam Gallagher is tweeting about how good Phil Foden is. I said for so long on Blooming Rising when we were doing that show when
I miss those days.
Foden was a kid, that we should just let him do his thing and not get too excited, not hype him up too much, because we've seen with so many young players in football where they get hyped up and they have these ridiculous pedestals they have to live up to. But I think with Phil Foden, he is a difference maker. When he's on the pitch, you feel like something's going to happen. And I think in the league this year, Player of the Year is not quite there yet. But I think, can you name a side in the top 20, and I include Liverpool in that, where Phil Foden wouldn't start?
It's a big. I was nervous today, man. I was nervous that he wasn't going to be involved today, but because we weren't sure, because he was rested the other day. We now know that. But if this isn't a sign that Pep doesn't trust him, he could have taken him off, because I actually thought Foden in the first half was a little bit he was chasing shadows a little bit. He didn't really know where he was meant to be playing the false nine. But I think it was a massive show of faith from Guardiola to at least persist with him, given the fact that he could have taken him off if he wanted to, but he took Mahrez off. But Pep trusts him now, doesn't he? He does trust him. I think he sees him as ready, so to speak, as part of the first team. Another man, by the way, we need to talk about Gundogan. Gundogan showed Thiago, in my opinion, what the Premier League's all about today. Two gifted, gifted deep mind playmakers. But Gundogan getting forward, 9 goals in 11 of his last 11 games. Alex, talk me about Gundogan at the moment. How good is he?
Mate, it's it's insane. It's like Paul Scholes crossed with Harry Kane. This kind of midfield in general that can absolutely punish from 6 yards. And
can't tackle and can't talk very well. Was that very harsh?
He's probably got better English than Harry Kane.
Yeah.
But it's one of these where he just seems to get into the right positions, and there's something that switched in Ilkay Gundogan's brain over the summer that just taught him, you can dash into the box. And I think players, he creates so many problems. I think for centre forwards, he takes the pressure off a centre forward, because if you're a centre back, you're thinking, I've got Gabriel Jesus running at me, I've got Phil Foden and Sterling coming off the wing, where do I go? And then all of a sudden there's Gundogan on the D coming in. You're thinking, hang on a minute, how do I track him? And that pressure on defenders, when you've got 4 or 5 players coming at you, actually Gundogan probably isn't the player that a centre-back runs to mark. Thinking, I want to cover Sterling, I know he can score goals. I want to cover Foden, I know he's the next best thing. And actually, Gundogan is this unlikely player that has come to the fore. And I think you can, if this season carries on like it is, I really think you can. It's reminiscent of the Yaya Toure season, where Yaya Toure scored, I think, 18 goals in the league. Or certainly around that. And Toure was starting games as a number 6 in front of the back 4, but was making so many runs in and absolutely punishing teams. I think you can compare him to great centre midfielders. Frank Lampard, who was an awesome box-to-box player, could put a tackle in and could protect the back 4, but actually could really add to strikers and wingers. And I think we can just watch it, Gundogan, and think that he's maybe Manchester City's 6th, 7th, 8th best player, and yet because Aguero's out, because De Bruyne's out, because Laporte's out, or not playing at least, we can actually look at Gundogan and see him shine, and a player that maybe as fans we've ignored in the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
Well, I need to talk a bit about another, from one Alex to another, Zinchenko. I want to talk a little bit, because people were a little bit surprised that he got the start today, given Laporte's back and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's fair to say he's kind of answered his critics, really, hasn't he? We know that he's a really nice guy and all that kind of stuff. We know that he's been even been attempted to be moved on a few times by City now. But has he just kind of played his way, with his recent form, not just this game, but been involved in wins against United and Chelsea and so on? Has he just basically secured his future in the squad?
I don't think one game will ever do it for Guardiola. I think Guardiola's standards are so high. I think Zinchenko could have scored a hat-trick today. I don't think that would assure him a place in the team next week, just because of how Guardiola. I mean, look how good Foden's been this season, and he's still not a guaranteed starter under Pep, because you have to do it every week. But I really, really like Zinchenko. I know a lot of City fans aren't fans. I hope today has converted a lot of City fans. But I think he's one of those players that he's still, in my opinion, not being played in his best position. I know that for Ukraine and at his former clubs, he's been played as a wide player, an attacking player, and I'm sure that that's still in his head. The fact that he works so hard being a left back for City, and then goes to play for his country and plays as a number 10 or plays as a wide player in an attacking role. And that must be very frustrating for him as an individual. But he's so committed to playing for Manchester City. He seems to have really bought into the club and Manchester and what it's about. And equally, I think he's determined to play for Guardiola. He could have gone to Wolves a couple of years ago, would have walked in as a starter, would have probably played in an attacking role, and had everything he wanted. But he wants to play for a Champions League club at the best, with the best players, with one of the best, if not the best manager in the world. And I think that's the sort of player that you want at Manchester City. And it's shown today that he's getting his head down, he's working hard, and we're getting the fruit of that. He is, today he was a Champions League quality player, a Premier League winning quality player. And I want players like that would, run their knackers off the City, who desperately want to be here, who might every now and again be a little bit below the quality, but are putting that effort in, because we've had so many great players down the years that haven't really cared about City, and we've not had the best performances from them.
Absolutely spot on. He clearly cares. And the thing is, today was meant to be probably the most difficult game of the season for him. It's Salah. Salah's in banging great form. And to be honest, even if you're a world-class left-back playing against Salah, you're allowed a mistake because it's Salah. And I don't really think anything he did wrong today. I mean, that's really impressive. Like, he would have been allowed an average performance, but he was still good. That's just dead impressive for me. Alex, a few more questions before we wrap up, mate. It's like some simple ones. For one, who was your man of the match today, and who was your unsung hero as well?
Oh, mate, it's so hard to pick a man of the match, because I really think it's one of those games from 1 to 11. I mean, you've got to give it to Gundogan, missing the penalty first half. I really thought, that's the end of his run of form. Watch all the fans pile on him, watch him get dropped next week. But actually, he answered it second half, not just with the goals, but in the engine room as well, and spraying passes here and there. It's got to be Ilkay Gundogan. Unsung hero, I'm going to say it, Joao Cancelo. I know that he's getting plaudits from City fans, but supporters of other clubs haven't yet worked out. Statman Dave was talking about this in the BBC at the weekend, about how statistically Cancelo is the best player in the league at the minute for form. And I think for a fullback that is also a winger, that is also a number 10, that is also a holding midfielder, could probably play in goal and up front. I think Cancelo is doing everything. He's doing all the ugly jobs that other players don't want to do, and he's doing the cool stuff and the flair as well. I think Cancelo is going to be the unsung hero, not just of today, but the season as well.
What a player. And finally, Alex, are we going to win the league?
I'm saying nothing, pal. I
mean... You've learned so well. You've been burned before in the past. You know it, don't you?
But I think, to give a cliche, it's one hand on the title, it's City's to lose. But I feel much more confident than I have done in previous years. Anything can happen. City have come from injuries and suspensions and weird stuff. We've still got the Champions League to take effect. It's only 22 games, so it isn't February in the football calendar. This is more like early January in the football calendar. There's a lot of stuff football to go on, but I don't see why we can't. We're in good form. I mean, De Bruyne is going to come back at some point. Aguero is going to come back at some point. And if we can get them, that'll be great momentum boost in a few months. But why not? We're having a great season.
Mate, thank you for coming on. It's been absolutely wonderful. How's your beard going down, by the way? You've had a sip of it for ages.
Man. Yeah, it's been great. I mean, it's nice. Football has been a massive excuse for me to have a beer and stuff, and it's justified all of my eating and drinking, because City have been so good in lockdown. You think, we won today. I can have
I'm
a
on
beer.
The whiskey, mate. Whiskey straight right now. Literally, I'm going pure whiskey on the rocks. Literally on rocks, which is unbelievable. That's the good stuff, isn't it, man? Alex, come back on soon. Are you there still? Yeah, you got me?
Yeah, sorry, I lost you. You said whiskey on the rocks, and then the soup.
Oh, no, I was just showing I've quite literally got whiskey on the rock. Nicola got me for Christmas these little, like whiskey rock things.
Oh, wicked, man.
She's a legend, yeah, legend. Mate, come back on soon if you don't mind. I would love to have you on pretty regularly if you're up for it. Alex, you're an absolute hero. We've won 4-1. It's fucking awesome. Go finish your beer. Big love to Alex, everyone. There'll be a link to his Twitter and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure you remember Bleeding Horizon. Fucking, that feels like years ago. It's annoying. I miss it so much. But Alex is an absolute legend. And I can't wait to go and visit your pub, mate. Me and Paul will be down straight as soon as you can do. We'll be drinking in your pub. Big love to Alex.
Man. A pleasure.
Come on, City.